Good evening. I'm Valerie Johnson, and I'm coming to you live from my office at home. And we get down here on Workers' Comp Talk to the brass tacks of all about your questions from Workers' Comp. This Facebook Live format is designed to give you some answers and to explain the answers in a way that everyone can understand. We hope to be helpful. Now, workers' comp is a very broad topic, and so we have a given slice every episode. And we'll answer questions if you give them to us live, or we'll answer questions in the comments later. Don't hesitate to reach out. Again, I'm Valerie Johnson, and I've been practicing workers' compensation law for over 25 years. I'm a board certified specialist, and I practice with a great team of attorneys who concentrate on workers' comp questions for injured workers. And I know I speak to all of us when we say that we love to hear your questions and we love to talk to people. Just today, I've talked to 4 or 5 different people about questions they have about workers' comp. So since we're here tonight, if you have anyone who might be interested, go ahead and tag them in the comments, or share this to your personal profile. We appreciate your support in trying to get out legal information about workers' compensation claims. If you hear something discussed and you'd like a longer one on a certain topic, just let us know. Our phone number will be, through the magic of Facebook Live, posted below. You can contact us at our website or call us at our Durham office below. I know that you may have some things that we haven't addressed, and so please don't hesitate to reach out. Today's episode is about going back to work on workers' comp. By that I mean, what should you know when you're asked to go back to work and you've been receiving your workers' comp checks? Or maybe you're in a slightly different situation and you're just making a workers' comp claim. What should you know? Well, we'll talk a little bit about a few things that you should know about going back to work, because what you don't know when you're asked to go back to work can certainly hurt you. During this episode of Workers' Comp Talk, I'm going to cover 3 things. First, when do you have to go back to work? And second, what if you don't have a job to go back to? And third, what if you can't do the work that you're given, or it's not really suitable for you, considering all the things about you as a person? Well, first of all, when do you have to go back to work? You've been injured. You're dealing with medical treatment. You're dealing with workers' comp checks. And then you have to deal with returning to work. Maybe you get a call from your job, and you're still treating, telling you that you can come back to work on Monday. Do you have to go? The short answer is, well, I hate to be a lawyer here, but it depends. For the real answer to that question, we need to know, what does your treating doctor say? Has your treating doctor released you to return to work? But our questions don't stop there. You need to know whether or not the doctor has released you to return to the specific job that you've been given to do. Most of the time, that means that the job has to give the doctor a job description, and that doctor reviews it and sees if it is appropriate. That is based on your current restrictions. And by restrictions, I mean the limitations that you've been given from your injury. Now, if you don't have any restrictions in workers' comp, you don't have any disability, and you may not be entitled to any benefits. So going back to work may be a question of, hey, I need to go back because my benefits are going to be stopped. So what if you don't go back to work? and you're supposed to. The insurance company can try to stop your benefits. That requires them to go to the Industrial Commission and to present evidence. It's done in a short hearing, and you, of course, have the opportunity to respond. Those time limits are short, though, 17 days to give a response, and then a hearing will be set. And that's really important because the insurance company should not stop your checks without the Industrial Commission telling them they can. Not in that context when you don't return to work. There's another context that we'll talk about in just a second. Now, even if you're denied workers' compensation benefits and you make a claim for those benefits, you still have the responsibility to return to work if you can work and if the job is appropriate for you. Because if you don't, it'll be used as evidence in the case that you're trying to use to get benefits. The insurance company will say that you refused work that you could do and you're not entitled to compensation. And the Industrial Commission just might agree with that. So because this is such an important question, and if it gets done incorrectly, you might lose benefits, you really should get a lawyer. And we're lawyers. If the insurance company tries to terminate your benefits, and don't forget, it's important that your lawyer know workers' comp law. You can be sure if that lawyer is a board certified specialist, they do know workers' compensation. Now, secondly, what if you don't have a job to go back to and the doctor says you can go back to work? We know now, particularly during the pandemic, your job just might not be there anymore. It could have been filled or it could have disappeared. Or maybe your limitations are so strict that there isn't a job that you can do at your workplace anymore. Under workers' comp, your employer does not have to offer you a job within your limitations. There may be other laws, there may be union contracts that make them do that, but workers' comp laws don't have to do. There's some accommodations you might think about asking if you have a job that's subject to those laws, but you might need to consult a lawyer about that. That's outside of workers' comp, but it is important to get you back to work when you need to be there. So what you do then, the short answer is to look for work. If you don't have a job offered by your employer and you are able to do work within your restrictions, you should look for work. Actually, there's a requirement that you must look for work in order to be able to get workers' compensation. Sometimes the insurance company is going to hire help for you to look for work. Those are vocational counselors, and you have a responsibility to work with those counselors. But even if they don't hire a person to help you, you work, you might not get benefits. You might not be entitled to them. It's a general rule and it has exceptions, and we'll talk a little bit about that. Because some people aren't able to find jobs after their injury, even if they are having still some ability to work. They're complicated questions, and if you have some particular considerations, you're going to need to ask a lawyer about them. Third, what if you can't do the job? You have a job, but it turns out you try it and you can't do it. Let's say your doctor has reviewed that job description. You go back to work. You might even be happy to be back to your, sort of old self again. But since it happens that you can't do the work, you need to talk to your doctor about it. And I'm talking about the doctor that has been authorized to treat you if you're getting benefits. That job is, no doubt important to you. And in order to stop work and have your benefits, that form makes the insurance company restart your compensation, and it has a time limit on it. It has to be properly filled out, of course, but you have 9 months to have that trial return to work, as long as you have some limitations. Sometimes if you don't have limitations, that could be shorter. And if they don't reinstart your compensation, you can file a form that will ask the Industrial Commission to order them to restart that compensation. Now, in that case, we're getting pretty complicated. The insurance company will have a lawyer on their side. The adjuster can't appear, can't act as a lawyer, so you should have one on yours. You need to level that playing field. Now, one thing that is important to understand, that the law makes a distinction between when you return to work when you're fully healed and when you're not, when you're still treating. If you're still treating, the law gives your employer and some leeway. You can be offered a job that might be light duty, one you wouldn't ordinarily do. It still has to be within your restrictions, and it still has to be approved by the doctor. Remember, we're talking about that same doctor that the insurance company gave you. And if your employer makes up a job for you after your healing is over, what do? I mean, this isn't a real job, not one that you've ever done before, because it really doesn't exist. It's tailor-made for you, or maybe tailor-made for people in your class, but it's not something that they would offer up to get interviews and advertise for. It may be parts of jobs. Well, you might want to return to it because it might pay what you were used to earning, and let's face it, it's not so fun being at home. And if you can do something, even if you can't do your regular job, but there are repercussions, there are consequences to choosing to do a job that isn't real. So maybe you shouldn't have to do that, but you're going to need to know that the law is just things that are put down in a book. They are codified and signed into law. Maybe they go through the legislature, and they absolutely do, and they end up in front of the governor to sign. They are subject to change, and they are subject to interpretation by judges. And so the more case specific it is that we have to look at what a job entails, the more we have to rely on evidence gotten from experts who look at your particular circumstances and render an opinion. That complication means that you really have to rely on what a lawyer tells you you can do and you can't do, and what you should fight and what you shouldn't. We have lots of testimony and evidence, and quite frankly, it gives me something to do and keeps me from shopping all the time. Now, that's a little bit of an overview about what you can do, what you should do, and what you should look for when you're asked to return to work or you want to return to work. One thing, however, I want to focus on is your tip of the week. One thing you can do to make your life a little bit easier if you have a workers' compensation claim and work is an issue. If you have to look for work, you should keep a record of it. You should write down or keep a record electronically, or even sometimes on a website like Indeed. When you're looking for work, it'll keep a record of everything you apply for. That is evidence of your willingness and your compliance with the law and looking for work. So you can certainly print out the logs and do it low tech, or you can keep a notebook, but it's one of the most important parts of your case that will be presented if you're looking for benefits and are not currently getting them. Make that paper trail. Now, that's all for tonight's episode of Workers' Comp Talk. Join us next time. Bring your questions. This is Valerie Johnson with Johnson and Groniger. Thanks for your time.